we're going to talk about the Supreme Court ruling and what that means. And we're going to go through history while I attempt to blend my eyeshadow successfully today. There's like a 50-50 shot whether or not I'm going to do a good job. My daughter calls this my Tiana makeup. Anyway, they're banking on most of the United States not knowing history because of the way they wrote that decision and the way they said that if things aren't intended to be racist, then they're not, which bold-faced fucking lie. But anyway, we have to think about the all-black districts, okay, and why they're all black to begin with. How did that happen, historically speaking? Was it just because black people like being together? No. All right, so let's think about this. Were there free black people in the United States? Foundational black Americans who are here and were free? Yes. Were a majority of the foundational black Americans that were in the United States free? No. No. No, they weren't. Okay? So this ruling is going to affect the South more than it is anywhere else for obvious reasons. If you know American history, that obvious reason is going to be because the South had the most enslaved black people. Were there enslaved black people above the Mason-Dixon line? Yes. Yes. It was just that the majority of them were down south because plantations, they were needed down south. And that is how the South got their wealth, okay? So, moving on here, and don't be mean about my makeup. Don't be mean. Like I said, I'm 44, and I am just getting back into it, and things change in 20 years. Anyway, so, where was I? Enslavement, lots of enslaved black people, all kept together and exchanged from plantation to plantation. Post-Civil War and freedom, you had sharecropping, which was still a continuation of enslavement. It was a continuation. It just, you were getting paid pennies. You couldn't leave. You couldn't afford to leave. Where the fuck were you going to go? No. Anyway, a lot of people think enslaved people were not skilled. That's a blatant lie. They had a lot of skills. Why did they have a lot of skills? Because white people didn't want to do jack shit. The fact that people say black people are lazy or they're not skilled, it's a lie. It's a lie told in order for racism to continue. Because the only people who were building anything, the only people who did all the things were enslaved black people. Okay? They were the ones that were constructing everything. So you got to pick one. Either black people were extremely talented because they're the ones that were doing everything for free, or they're lazy. You can't have both. So there ended up being a whole bunch of talented people who moved to the city to look for work, right? And when they moved to the city, white people fled the city and moved to the suburbs. That's called white flight. Okay? And if you keep people in poverty, they can only go into certain areas. So black people congregated together. There were laws that kept them together. You could not buy houses in white neighborhoods. That's why HOAs exist. Okay? There were literal laws that kept black people from being able to live with and amongst white people. So now you have all of these neighborhoods and all these districts because of redlining, because of redistricting, because of all of this, because of not selling houses to black people. And mind you, even the GI Bill, okay, which allowed veterans to buy their first homes, yeah, black people didn't benefit from that. My own father, who was a Vietnam vet and born in 1944, did not benefit from the GI Bill until the 90s. Okay? He did not. So, we have all of this structural racism as the reason why Black people live together in certain areas. Mind you, anytime those certain areas that Black people were forced to be in together because of laws that racist white people created, anytime those towns ended up becoming successful, those towns were burned to the ground. They were burned to the ground. They were leveled with lakes. They were systematically destroyed so that we could have highways. Public transportation was destroyed so that Black people couldn't access the suburbs, okay, because they would need a car. Bridges were made lowered so that public transit couldn't get to certain areas. That way, Black people couldn't get there. Everything that we have in the United States is created because they did not want formerly enslaved and the descendants of enslaved people, Black people in general, to be able to have access to the things that rich white people had. So they kept Black people together via laws that were racist. So when we look at the redistricting and the saying that things cannot be done unless proven to be intentional, literally everything that has been done to keep those districts Black has been done because of racism and intentional racism that can be proven throughout history. It can be proven that it was done for racial reasons. So that puts literally every single Black neighborhood area from California to New Jersey in jeopardy, because they're going to feign like they don't know history, and they're going to hope that nobody else understands American history as well. Is this blended all the way? I can't tell. I'm probably going to have to blend it more. Anyway, that's your history lesson for the day. This shit goes back. It goes back hundreds of years. Hundreds of years.